in this project, which we call Optimistic Minds, but the play is actually called We're the Ones We've Been Waiting For. We're using legislative theater, which is a creative and grassroots and fun participatory democracy process, to look at improving or redesigning policies and practices and budgets around mental health for young people here in Greater Manchester.
Hearing everyone talk about what they felt and what they've been through and the similarities and the differences that may be akin to our own, knowing that it all angers a lot of people, and I don't know, there's a lot of pain.
I saw a call for funding, and it was basically looking at why young people and people working with them don't use psychology evidence, evidence that psychologists produce. There's a very kind of like strong reason why this is put together, It's good to be rigorous, it's good to be scientific sometimes, but one of the things that I've always kind of known about this type of work is that there's no voice for young people in there. So you might have a scientist telling that you should work on your breathing if you're a depressed young person. But when you're telling that to a young person who's been struggling to get services for 2 years, it can come across as a bit patronising. That was the kind of the general approach, is like, how do we acknowledge that there is all this evidence that can be useful, but also that we really need to kind of like put young people's voices in there.
I definitely want people to start realising what's going on instead of just sweeping it under the carpet. I want commissioners or something to be changed. Even if it's only a small detail can make a big difference to someone's life.
I was very curious about legislative theatre and the idea of sort of like using theatre to sort of not just to like entertain, but to kind of like try to make a difference. So it's kind of a good chance to kind of make your voice heard to these people, because you do get to kind of sit in a room with some of the people who've been responsible for making some of the decisions that have perhaps hurt you, and saying, this is what happened, what are you going to do, how are you going to commit to making this not happen again?
I thought one of the things that really touched me was when one of the young people said, you might think this is exaggerated, but this is what we've really experienced. And I think that made the audience kind of go, okay, I really need to listen to this. It just seems so obvious to young people that are using services that if we were more joined up, it would make their lives loads easier, and they wouldn't have to wait so long, and they wouldn't have to repeat themselves so often. And it just feels a bit sad that we haven't done more around joining things up. And there were people in the room today who don't necessarily get to have that level of kind of contact and interaction and conversation and discussion with young people. They're very, very busy doing their jobs and don't get the chance to kind of stand back and listen to what people have to say. So it's ace that they've had a chance to do that this evening.
I'd say we had a very lovely crowd and people attend. I'd say they were quite interactive. I'd say their ideas were beneficial. There's lovely people to perform for. I'd say the piece that we put together, we spent months practicing. I'd say overall it was a good performance. We got our point across. We did what we needed to do, and it's only now to see it being put